Good evening.
Just check we seem to freeze then. We are actually recording.
We are recording. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. We're listening to, as our background music, this beautiful, what did you describe this?
Spot varnished.
Spot varnished. The spot varnished cover of Jordan de la Sierra. Recorded at Nob Hill in a cathedral in San Francisco. Sort of a piano that's been tuned so that octaves are divided into 12 subdivisions, so that kind of every note resonates and sort of seems to be tuning with every other note, I think. Anyway, very interesting. Double album. It's not really why we're here to talk about
Spot varnished.
Spot varnish on Nob Hill.
On Nob Hill.
Here we go. We kicked off. We had a great session today.
Very diverse. Indeed.
Yeah. We started with this, which is just a white label, a drum and bass remix by someone called Aphrodite of the Black Street track, No Diggity. Sounded very good.
Yeah.
Like a proper deconstructed remix.
Yeah, proper remix, definitely.
Yeah.
Then we went into a hip hop section, which
did.
wasn't quite what we were expecting, I don't think. I played the track Grinding, which is off, I think this was the first Clipse album produced by the Neptunes. People might have heard of Pharrell Williams. He's a bit famous these days. Something about the kind of sparseness in the way of the drum and bass track reminded me of this one. Good album, this one. Actually, early Neptunes production. Good hip hop.
No bass,
No bass at all.
but a big drum machine.
Very big drum.
Carrying on the hip hop connection, we had the Luck of Lucian from this tribe called Quest album, People's Instinctive Travels and the Paths of Rhythm. It's
First
quite
album.
late. It's 1:15 in the morning.
Yes, that's right.
And I can't speak anymore. It's been a
Which
very
is
long
going to be
session.
interesting.
It's going to be an interesting
video.
session. But yeah, classic track and fantastic backing track, which we can't remember what it is, but I know I've actually got the original, but we can't remember what it is.
I think it's the Mizell brothers. Actually, anyway, we'll remember.
Yeah.
Keeping with the native tongues, that went for the Crazy Wisdom Masters, which is an EP which was put out by Word Sound, which is a kind of experimental hip hop label out in New York. And this is in fact the Jungle Brothers. And this was the album that was never released by, I think it was Ireland. I can't remember who they're on, but whatever label they're on did put the album out. And it's a kind of experimental hip hop record, very very different to the released Jungle Brothers stuff. And I can't remember which track we played. Played the first track off it anyway. But it's worth picking this up actually. It's still around. You can find it. 10-inch EP on Word Sound, and it's called the Crazy Wisdom Masters.
Was it? So it's not a bootleg.
It's not a bootleg. No, it's. I think they gave it to Word Sound to put out. So it's not actually a bootleg. I think.
Carrying on, we kept going with the hip hop, and we had the Most Def album. Which is, what is this album?
Back to Black.
It is Back to Black.
Yeah.
Is it called Back to Black?
Yeah.
No, it's Black on Both Sides.
Or Black on Both Sides.
Yeah. On the Raucous label. And we had the track called
Umi Says.
Umi Says. Which is a fantastic track. It's kind of not really even a hip hop track because there's a lot of singing from Mos Def, but bizarrely has a Will.i.am on Fender Rhodes and Weldon Irvin on the organ. But fantastic.
Well, Weldon Irvin did quite a lot of stuff with all these.
Weldon Irvin's all over this album.
Yeah. And then from the first Mos Def solo album, then went. I think this was the first time Mos Def was on record. This is on Reflection Eternal, which is again on Raucous. The band was called Reflection Eternal, which is Talib Kweli and Mos Def, also with No Man on Mr. Man on this track, and we played. It's very good video, isn't it? Played a track called 45 Half. Yeah, classic early Raucous. Raucous, by the way, was owned by Rupert Murdoch's son, James Murdoch.
Really?
Yeah.
God, there's a
I
turn
met him. I met him in New York.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know.
Big shout out to Ben Costello, because I know he's a big fan of this tune. With one of the biggest synth bass lines ever recorded, I think. Dead Prez and the track Hip Hop, which sounded pretty fierce.
Very fierce. Almost tested the speaker's capabilities.
It did. It was really.
Then we had a break.
We did. We needed a break. We needed a break, and we had a Portuguese tart.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was lovely.
That's okay. Gratuitous. Cut me out of that one. Nothing to do with me. Then I've seen a reissue of this flying around a bit on the VC. But I pulled out, just to show off really, pulled out the original of Evan Parker, Derek Bailey and Han Bennick's Topography of the Lungs, which has Evan's original notes inside it as well for the record, quoting Desmond Morris, all this kind of stuff.
Some great. Give us a quote, John, because there's some nice stuff.
There's some great stuff. I mean, basically talks about improvisation. You should impose a rhythmic repetition on the familiar. You should vary the repetition as many ways as possible. Really good stuff, kind of. I remember Evan was definitely into Desmond Morris at that time. He was a kind of, almost like a kind of David Attenborough kind of character. He used to do TV programs about nature and animals particularly.
And Evan Parker, who lives in this very town that we're making the video from.
Absolutely.
Who I see every now and again in the greengrocers.
Yeah. And first album on Incus. I'll do a solo post with all of the. I've got loads and loads of early European improv stuff from when I used to run a record distribution company.
And first special mention to Teddy, I think, who is shown,
yes, that's right.
shown that.
Yeah. Looks exactly the same as a reissue, so you have to take my word for it.
Then, keeping with a sort of improvisatory, experimental groove, and with a bit of a tribute to Ornette Coleman, we had the collaboration between Charlie Hayden and Ornette Coleman on this album, which is called Closeness, which is a whole lot of different duets with Charlie Hayden and different artists. And we listened to the track OC. Sounded very, very nice. Yeah,
there's another album, I think recorded at the same sessions, called Soap Suds with Ornette Coleman and Charlie Hayden, which is a fantastic record. Staying with Ornette, we thought he's such an important person, we needed to have two. This was weirdly the first Ornette record I bought, actually, even though it wasn't the first one he released on Atlantic. It's the Art of the Improvisers, and it kind of swept up some of the tracks that were left off. This one and another one whose name I've forgotten, actually, were swept up some of the Twins, that's right. Swept up some of the tracks that were left off some of the other Ornette's Atlantic albums. Take the track, The Alchemy of Scott the Pharaoh, which unsurprisingly has Scott the Pharaoh on bass, with Ed Blackwell and Don Cherry.
Scott the Pharaoh playing very fast bass.
Incredible kind of bass lines on it. Yeah.
Amazing. As you were saying, incredible precision.
Yeah.
With the play.
Great articulation. Unlike our video.
Yes, we're not being very precise. Was Don Cherry on that? He had suddenly appeared at the end.
Yeah,
it was an
right.
amazing horn solo.
Yeah.
So the connection was Don Cherry. Don Cherry. Here is another album called Eternal Now. Don Cherry and lots of Swedish collaborators. Bent Berger, Agneta Ernström, Krista Burton, and we listened to a track called Bass Figure for Ballatune, which is two pianos with three players and kind of has a sort of hypnotic, almost kind of African type thing going on with kind of lots of overtones. Very short track, but quite hypnotic.
Yeah. The record label that stuck us out, Sonnet, isn't it?
It is.
So, yeah, they put out a lot of really good stuff. Actually, there's some great albums by a guy called OK Temiz, who's a Turkish drummer with Johnny Diani and other people. Went straight the kind of connection really with the almost the three pianos trying to imitate, it's almost like a thumb piano actually. Then we went to Francis Baby, and this is a record called Psychedelic Sansa, which is, and Sansa is a variant on the thumb piano. And this was my birthday present from Mark, and it sounded great actually. It's a really interesting record. It's a recorded early 60s, and I think kind of must have been kind of reprocessed at some point or other.
Sounds
by
great.
him. Sounding really good. Played the track called Forest Nativity of this. Been reissued on a French label called, I can't remember the label actually. Anyway, been reissued. And good stuff. Double vinyl, nice recording, interesting record.
Keeping with this sort of almost trance-like vibe and a bit of a sort of spoken word, we made a deft left field touch into the world of Detroit techno, and this is the latest album by Theo Parrish, American Intelligence,
Kind of great.
which did sound fantastic. This is a triple vinyl. Beautiful.
Great photography.
Yeah, look at that. Very big sounding, quite sort of stripped down, but quite a bit of real playing. Just actually doesn't really sound like anything else, genuinely sounds like proper future music. Theo Parrish, we listened to the track called Footwork. It's his first album since I think about 2007. Definitely isn't following any furrow apart from his own.
I mean, all those Detroit guys are just doing stuff way ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
It still sounds good. And from Detroit, we went to Jesse Johnson. I can't exactly remember why. I think there must have been something about the bass line that reminded me of this. And played the Jesse Johnson, of course, one-time member of the Time, worked with Prince, now currently working with D'Angelo, of course. And played the track, and this is a 12-inch single, She, but I played the track Crazy with Sly Stone off here. Great video on YouTube with them doing this live together.
Yes, Sly is sounding surprisingly very
Good voice.
very
Yeah.
together, actually. So the connection with Jesse Johnson is, as John was saying, he's playing on this album, not very much, but he is on it, and he's obviously playing with D'Angelo, and any excuse just to play another track off this fantastic album, which is The Black Messiah. And we played the Back to the Future Part 2, again sounding sensational, amazing production, deep groove.
I think I might have gone out of order. I think we had a break, didn't we?
We must have had a break.
Another break. And then kind of went into just really one of my favourite records, actually, Inspiration and Information by Shuggy Otis. Played the track Sparkle City. I mean, if you haven't got this record, you should have
Have to have it.
It's kind of classic.
Yeah.
From early 70s, early to mid 70s. Really good.
With that very distinctive early 70s drum machine, which was also much favoured by Sly and the Family Stone. And also features on that track, and features on this album, which is J.J. Cale's Naturally. Very, very minimal stuff. And we listened to the track River Runs Deep. Very nice. Lovely. I love this cover.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I listen to J.J. Cale quite a lot, easily. I do listen to him quite a lot, actually. I'm not sure what I played next, actually. I think it was Young and Two Cent.
Yeah? We've all gone totally out of sync here, John.
No, it wasn't Young and Two Cent. Maybe it was, is it Jim O'Rourke?
I think it was Jim O'Rourke.
It was Jim O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Don't know what the connection was with Jim O'Rourke. Only to say that really this is probably the kind of, for me, 2 albums of the year have been D'Angelo and the new Jim O'Rourke album, actually, which is called Simply Songs, which is on Drag City, and it's just great, really.
Sounded
I mean,
fantastic.
really interesting record, beautifully produced. First album of songs he's done for 9 years now, 8 or 9 years now, and he's working with a Japanese rhythm section, and it's spot varnished.
Ah, there you go.
Fantastic.
For all you spot varnish
really
fans.
recommend it. It's quite weird, but he uses minimal kind of Doesn't use plugins and doesn't use many of the things that other people use in terms of making records. And the first time I played it, it sounded quite quiet, but actually there's a lot of detail on this thing. Very highly recommended. Worth getting on vinyl. Worth getting, actually. Don't worry about the vinyl, just get it.
With a definite sort of UK psychedelic vibe to it.
I mean, his voice sounds like Cat Stevens on it, which took me a while to realise, actually. And
I thought Roy Harper.
Yeah, crossing Cat Stevens and Roy Harper. Yeah.
So with that sort of UK late 60s psych influence, it seemed natural to play Hey Bulldog from this, which is the triple vinyl Beatles mono masters. So this is all of the tracks that were released as singles that were often not on albums, and this sounds fantastic, and it's a lovely triple gatefold package.
And I think if you're very rich, there's a box, isn't there, with all of the Beatles stuff in one.
Oh yeah, if you're very rich.
Which is just sounded fantastic.
Yeah, really great.
Slightly spurious link to it gets a bit shaky towards the end here in terms of the links.
Well, as we are.
I started thinking about some Alan Toussaint's Southern Nights, and didn't have that with me, so I played another Alan Toussaint record on the way down, which is from Love, Life and Faith, which is Life, Love and Faith, beg your pardon, which is again another early 70s Alan Toussaint with the meters. Very kind of swampy vibe as usual with his stuff. Really nice record, this one, actually. I never see it kind of talked about very much, but a good one.
And a slightly psyche feel.
Slightly psyche feel to it, definitely.
Yeah.
The track on the way down, I'm pretty sure was covered by Little Feat on one of their albums.
I just wanted to play this, so there wasn't really a reason why I played it, except that I've just recently got it. This is Glenn Phillips' solo album called Lost at Sea. It's actually just been re-released, but I managed to pick up an original copy on Discogs at a very good price, and I knew nothing about this, but just saw a very kind of sort of 5-star review in Record Collector recently, and I was just intrigued. It's an all guitar instrumental album, and he is actually, the connection was that the track John played off the Alan Toussaint was covered by Little Feat, and Lowell George was a great advocate for Glenn Phillips' guitar playing. This album was recorded just after Glenn Phillips' dad had committed suicide, very young, I think he was 50 or something, and there is a real kind of edge and expression of deep pain, I think, in some of the playing. It's kind of quite unusually ferocious at times, sort of like a weird cross between Mike Bloomfield and John McLaughlin, and Carlos Santana occasionally. But interesting album. Anybody who's into guitar music, check this out.
On Virgin.
Yes, this was released on Virgin. I mean, it released independently, a proper DIY album, but then picked up. I think John Peel got a copy, and then Richard Branson picked up on it and put it out on Virgin.
Definitely. No real connection to Terry Reid, except guitar playing, and so this is actually was I think the first Terry Reid album, which came out in the UK bizarrely on a budget label called Music for Pleasure, where the records were incredibly cheap. I mean,
you used to get them in Woolworths.
You could buy them in Woolworths and hardware stores and stuff. And this is also been re-released as Superlands quite recently, I think on CD and on vinyl, and played the track Rich Kid Blues. It's produced by Mickey Most, and we were just saying actually, I think it's a bit overrated for the producer actually.
Yeah, but Terry Reid's very underrated.
Very underrated. So.
And we're big fans of Terry Reid.
Yeah.
On the Dr. Rhythm channel. So yeah, I guess all of these last 3 tracks were characterised by a certain intensity, and that was also matched by the track that we listened to from this Julie Tippets album, which John gave me. This was a birthday present for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Sunset
both
Glow.
the birthday presents go out.
And we listened to a track called Oceans and Sky, which featured Keith Tippets all over it. I think he wrote it as well.
Yeah.
and a really nice kind of big instrumental lineup on this. Were you saying it was the Brotherhood of Breath lineup?
A lot of Brotherhood of Breath people.
Yeah.
Also Brian Godding, who was in a band called Blossom Toes as well.
Yeah.
was on there.
Great album.
I think I saw John Coltrane 68 showing this on the video at some point as well, which would make sense. Definitely. Yeah.
And John was sort of saying some people refer to this as almost like the female vocal version of Rock Bottom.
Similar kind of mood to it and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and very kind of diverse and very original.
And the last track's dedicated to Robert Wyatt as well. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think Robert Wyatt's on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly. I had a funny, interesting. Roger Coleman on his blog talked about the fact he couldn't listen to any vinyl for a while because something went wrong with his deck. So I actually had a couple of weeks where I didn't listen to any vinyl. I only listened to CDs. And I think if you're like me and you've got a lot of CDs, you should rediscover your CD collection. There's probably some good stuff in there. And one of the things I came across during the week, which I hadn't listened to for a while, was Michel and Deguiocello's Comfort Woman, which is a great record actually. And played the track Liloquy Moon on here, which has got some great guitar playing and great drumming on it from Chris Dave, of course, who's everywhere now, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, don't forget there's music on these things as well. You
Yeah.
can't listen to everything on vinyl.
We had another break at this moment and came back. This was for our kind of more wind down session. It was after midnight now, and we listened to Peace Go With Your Brother, Gil Scott Heron, Brian Jackson. The album is called The Bottle. Fantastic album.
Great record.
I think, is it on Strata East? It's definitely got a Strata East connection, isn't it?
I think it wasn't Strata East actually.
It is on Strata.
Well, there was two versions of The Bottle, wasn't there? One on Strata East and one he redid it later on, I think.
Yeah, great album. Very
good.
I think there's an album of Gil Scott Heron covers floating around at the moment. I heard a version of this track, which is why I revisited it. And a very beautiful tune. And we certainly need a bit more peace at the
We
moment.
certainly do. Thinking of peace and just kind of vibes, really. I mean, pulled out one of my favourite. Been listening to Curtis Mayfield a lot recently. Actually, it seems like a lot of people are kind of influenced by him in a weird kind of way. Again, peaceful soul, interesting, very interesting character in terms of what he did with his music, I think. Really, this is from Curtis Live, which has to be one of the best ever live albums, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic. And we played The Makings of You off it, which is a kind of ballad. There's two, if you're you must be watching YouTube as you're watching this video actually, but there's two great Curtis Mayfield tracks on YouTube filmed at the Old Grey Whistle Test, the BBC programme, which is just fantastic. Really same lineup.
When I remember hearing that track for the first time, John, because you stuck it on a cassette when my wife was pregnant.
Oh God!
With my first child over 20 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. So it always is great to hear it.
Yeah.
We listened to a track by Lonnie Smith. A big shout out to Teddy, who gave me a fantastic VCLT package. I'm not actually showing all the records here because when we do these sessions, we don't pre-plan what we're going to play. We just sort of flow. But this one seemed to fit, particularly the track Babbitt's Other Song, which is a Bob Babbitt bass player written song. Just had a nice kind of mellow vibe to it. And thank you very much, Teddy.
Very nice. Yeah, the other two are great. Keeping with a kind of mellow vibe, but going slightly more mid-tempo, and also indulging my weird preference for Toto. I've already talked about this in other VCs. Played the track Georgie Porgy, which also features Cheryl Lynn, great singer on it. Fantastic drumming on this track. I mean, it's minimalist, just groove drumming by Jeff Pecoro. Really, really good. Great track. Also redone by a band called Charme, which I think was a one-off put together for one record, and sung by Luther Vandross.
That's right, which was the version I knew. I didn't realise
Yeah.
Toto had done that tune. Sounded great. Yes, so we entered a bit of a sort of yacht rock, soft rock period.
Yacht rock section of the evening, yeah.
This is a re-release by an artist called Ned Doheny. This was previously only available in Japan. Great, really great album. He's got a fantastic voice, some great songs, some amazing players, and interesting enough, even though I hadn't realised when we checked the liner notes, Jeff Picaro was drumming on this track as well. We listened to the track called "The Devil in You." You may know the tune "To Prove My Love." That's a bit of a rare groove classic, but whole album's great.
Ned Doheny is probably on half your record collection. He's one of those people singing backup vocals on hundreds and hundreds of tracks. Then went to kind of yacht rock via Nashville, twisted with a touch of Curtis Mayfield thrown in, and really it was just an excuse to play one of my favourite bands, Lambchop, but from the vinyl reissue of Nixon, which never came out on vinyl, which is weird because it's an analogue recording, and sounded lush actually, with some very very odd kind of falsetto vocals from Kurt.
Very odd.
Played the track You Masculine New, but this is kind of obviously a classic record. Everybody. Record of the year all over the place when it came out originally. Great album, great band, but I do like them.
My last tune of the night was from this album, which is Steely Dan's The Royal Scam, which I was reminiscing with John. I got this when I was 16. Still sounds great many years later. Fantastic album actually. I mean, probably for me one of their strongest albums. Great rhythm section of Bernard Purdie and Chuck Rainey. Great songs, great playing, and yeah, the title track, The Royal Scam, just sounded so fresh, so original, so clever.
Kind of timeless as well.
Yeah, great band.
And the last track of the evening, and my last track, was with our first Blue Note of the evening, actually.
Yeah.
Just played Idle Moments, off Idle Moments by Grant Green, which is a very, very long, extended, almost dreamlike track, very un-Blue Notey, actually. Grant Green guitarist, obviously with Joe Henderson, Bobby Hutcherson, Duke Pearson on piano, who I've been listening a lot to recently. Kind of interesting character, really. Bob Cranshaw on bass and Al Harwood on drums. Very long, spacey track, actually. There's a wonderful tenor solo by Joe Henderson. It's incredibly hard to play the tenor saxophone that quietly.
And interesting liner notes from Duke Pearson just about the particular take of this track, which was sort of double the length it was supposed to be, and they attempted it another 2 or 3 times but just couldn't
do it.
Couldn't match the kind of groove and the spacey feel that kind of was all coming from Grant Green's guitar solo, really, setting the tone.
But yeah, kind of interested in getting more and more interested in the late period of the kind of non-classic period of Blue Note as well. This is a classic one, but a lot of Duke Pearson stuff's really interesting. Great Christmas record as well, surprisingly. That was it.
That was it, folks. So,
yes, happy summer solstice, which has just passed it, everybody. We need a bit more peace in the world at the moment.
We certainly do. Well, we're sending peace to you.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Slightly disorganised, but good night.